Hey, look,
Hey.
we're back.
Hey, Mike's back.
I'm
Hey,
back. There he is.
Yeah.
Look at him. Woo!
Show him the ring.
Married
Show him.
I'm
show
not
him.
gonna, no, it's just a regular.
Show
I have a regular old wedding ring on. Yeah.
Show him the
Why do
ring.
you downplay every big thing in the world?
I'm not downplaying every big thing in the world.
You got married. It's a big
I did
deal.
get married. Yeah, it was a big deal. But I just have a regular old silver ring on. I wasn't downplaying the fact that I got married. I was just downplaying my ring.
Like, oh, what did you do this weekend? Nothing. Just got married.
No, you know.
It's week 8. It's good to have your stabilizing presence back.
Yeah, it's good to
kind
do
of
that.
intervene
Yeah, it was
here.
very tough to do what you do.
Yeah,
You really-
it is.
times
Yeah,
when
it's even tougher when I have you two idiots trying to talk over me too. So
well,
you guys, I'm sure you didn't even have to go through that.
back to the
But
norm.
yeah, so I guess welcome to The Spread, SN.com's Football Picks podcast. I'm Mike Cole. That's Ricky Doyle. That's Andre Kachaturian. As we do every week, we're going to go through the 3 best games in the NFL slate, make our picks against the spread, do a couple locks and upsets, maybe a little show and tell, and we'll get out of here. We were just talking about before we came on the air, not a great slate this week, I think, of games, which is saying a lot after last week was pretty putrid. We were just talking about,
bad.
you say, the
3
first time,
shutouts.
3
I think
shutouts.
sucked.
First time, most shutouts in a week since week 15 of 2012.
Unbelievable.
And that doesn't include the Panthers getting
And then,
3
like,
points.
yeah, exactly. They scored 3. I think 2 other teams scored 7. The Bears didn't score an offensive touchdown.
The Browns and Titans.
The Browns and Titans didn't score any
12 field goal
touchdowns.
contest.
Yeah. So
12-9 slugfest.
in overtime too. It's
We've
just,
had a lot of those field goal contests
Yeah.
lately going on. We even saw it in the playoffs last year with the Boswell getting interviewed after the game
yeah.
against Steelers.
It sucks. I hate to be the guy who's like overly negative, especially about it's coming here every week and say like, this week's gonna stink. There's not a whole lot going on, but. It's tough, It is tough. I think, but we're getting to the right time of year. October's almost over. You go into November. At least things start meaning a little bit more. It gets colder. A little smash mouth football from here and there.
Ideally, at this time of year, you would kind of have an idea as to who, which teams are separating themselves and whatnot. But there's a lot of just blah.
When was the last time we got like this late into the season without without a clue of who are the favorites? Like I was thinking this the other day, especially with the Aaron Rodgers injury, which I'll get to eventually. There's no real clear-cut favorite in the NFC, which is like why I got so upset about the Aaron Rodgers thing. Is because it's like if the Packers had him, maybe they're the.
Well, I think the Rams might be, and Eagles, I guess.
Maybe it's still exactly, but you're like I guess in the past there's no Patriots this year.
Kind of the Eagles by default at this point. But,
Right.
I mean, if they were to fall off a cliff here towards the end of the year, I don't think anybody would be
That's
stunned
good, though.
by that.
Playoffs will be fun.
Sure, and I mean, I guess
I like
in 3 to 4 weeks we could be looking at the AFC East too. I mean, the AFC, the Steelers are coming along. The
That's a
Patriots
three-team-
starting to
that's a
figure it out.
three-team
Yeah,
horse race.
the Chiefs. So I think it'll start to finally. I just feel like it's taking longer than it usually does.
Yeah.
So,
Well, let's look at the standings
Yeah.
from last week. Mike Cole, you led the way. Blindly, I guess. You didn't even give reasons for any of your picks.
I had reasons. I just didn't feel like sharing them.
6, 7, and 1. And now me and Ricky, both of us tied for last still, or second, whichever way you want to put it. Glass half full, glass half empty. 5, 8, and 1. Because we're under 500, it'll be glass half empty.
Might squeak into the wild card game. 2 of us.
We'll figure it out. The season, we have more data to look at now, I guess. Let's look at this first
Love
game.
data.
I'm feeling good. I'll just say.
Speaking of 2 teams that are like trying to
Just
figure out
winning.
what the hell they are. what
Yeah,
their
let's get
identity
into
is.
let's get
I know
into
this
the
first
picks.
game. These 2 teams have
Yeah,
their
this
ups
is-
and downs.
This is a 1 o'clock game. It from Orchard Park, New York. I believe it's called New Era Field now. The artist formerly known as Ralph Wilson Stadium hosts the Buffalo Bills. Have the Oakland Raiders coming to town. The Bills, as it stands right now, was 3. I am down to 2.5 points on OddsShark.com, which is where we get all of our lines, and where I got a lot of information this week. So make sure to head over to OddsShark when you get a chance. They help us out with a lot of different things. But yeah, Raiders, a team that a lot of people picked as a Super Bowl favorite, perhaps out of the AFC. Now a underdog going to Buffalo. Kind of a wild situation. If you told me this a few months ago, I would have told you you're an idiot. But hey, it's where we're at. So Ricky, why don't you start it off with the Raiders?
AFC East
Bills.
is shaping up to be
Unbelievable.
something pretty novelty, something we didn't really expect. In this game, though, I'm gonna take the Bills, and I'm putting a lot of stock into the home field advantage here.
Yep.
We've seen before with the Raiders going from west to east, have their fair share of struggles. 4-19 straight up in the last 23 games on the East Coast. What are you shrugging over there for?
I'm shrugging because the Raiders were only good last year.
They've been coming around for a couple of years.
I actually looked at Carson Palmer's East Coast Eastern Time Zone stats. I'll share them when it's my turn.
Oh, please do. Please do tell me an injured veteran quarterback who's not going to play for the rest of the season is East Coast stats.
Not Carson Palmer.
Yeah, thank God, because that's exactly what I'm looking for.
I was going to say they're on the bye this week, too.
Derek Carr.
Anyways, I like the Bills. In addition
to
this East Coast debacle that they have going on, it really stems from the defense. I mean, I know they squeaked out that win over the Chiefs, and the immediate reaction, and the reaction throughout this week is that this is like the turning point for the Raiders or something. I'm not buying into that just yet. I need to see it against another team with a pretty good defense, the Bills. Fifth opponent's passer rating, they rank fifth in that category, so I think they can make life a little difficult for Derek Carr this week. And like I said, that Raiders defense is still has some flaws. I mean, that game against the Chiefs, they were exposed again. So I'm going to take the Bills at home, even with the laying 3 points here.
I think it's pretty obvious. I'm taking the Raiders on the road, 2.5 points. Derek Carr.
Clearly.
Derek Carr, Eastern Time Zone. Last year, 9 touchdowns, no picks, 3-0 record. The time difference doesn't bother him. He struggled in Washington on Sunday Night Football this year, but that wasn't even a 1 o'clock game. That was a Sunday night game. You can't even use the time for an excuse. He just had a bad game against a really good team.
Yeah, exactly.
Buffalo Bills are not as good as the Washington Redskins.
You made his point, though, by saying that.
No, I didn't.
He was like, because it was an 8 o'clock game. So this is a 1 o'clock game. So if the time difference was going to be felt,
but in the last year, he was 3-0, 9 touchdowns, no picks.
Can you say that definitively?
What?
That the Bills aren't as good as the Redskins?
I think the Redskins have better,
especially defensively.
I think that's debatable.
Hold on.
Don't throw that out there as fact.
Okay, fine. It is debatable. It's very debatable.
Right.
But Tyrod Taylor, he has been sacked on 10.1% of dropbacks this season. That is second highest in the league. The Raiders don't really get to the quarterback, but this might be the week they do so because the Bills' offensive line really gives up a ton of sacks. And on the other side of the trenches, the Raiders' offensive line really protects Derek Carr well historically. And I think this game is going to be one of the battle of the trenches. You got two quarterbacks who really don't turn the ball over that much, but I think the Raiders will get pressure to the quarterback. And interesting stat for whatever this is worth, the Thursday night team that has won the week before is 5-1 the next week. So I'm going to take the Raiders.
Extra rest, I guess. Yeah,
I guess.
They'll be better rested team. Adjust to the time zone.
I don't think it has as much to do with the time zone, anything like that. I did have the same stat, which we got from OddsShark, that the 4-19 stat. For me, it does not necessarily have to do with them going east, because we saw them go play where they lose to Denver on the road. Yeah, they couldn't get anything going offensively. They're a much different team, or have been this year, on the road. If you look at yards per play, a stat that you love, a stat that I helps me handicap at least, the Raiders average 6.1 yards per play at home. On the road, much different story. 4.5 yards per play. That's a difference of 1.6 yards per play. Okay, that's the fourth largest discrepancy difference in the entire NFL. And so that tells me that they're just a much different team away from Oakland. We saw that the offense looked great on Thursday night at home. Maybe a little bit different story. We've seen the last few years too. This is just anecdotal. Teams going into Buffalo have had hard times.
It's a tough place to play.
The Packers got beat there a few years ago.
Flaming tables.
I think it was the Cardinals when the Cardinals were good went there and got whooped on. So it's a tough place to go. Also, we're getting to the time of year where weather starts to be an issue. It's unseasonably warm everywhere, including Buffalo, but there's rain in the forecast this weekend for Sunday. I think that favors Buffalo because, again, we talk about, I think the Bills, Shady McCoy hasn't been great this year, at least not to the standards that he holds himself to, but I think they have if you're going to do the little check mark thing, I give them the advantage in the running game. So if it's going to be raining, obviously I think you're more apt to run the ball. I like them from that standpoint. Also, Buffalo has been very good at protecting the football. Plus 10 turnover differential, first in the NFL. The Raiders -2, that's 22nd in the NFL. Also, these two teams played last December in Oakland. Buffalo actually led that game going into the fourth quarter. Sure, they gave up 15 unanswered points in the fourth quarter and lost the game by 14, but I'm blaming that on Rex Ryan. I don't know if that's fair for me to do, but I just think that this is a Buffalo team that can hang with them. I certainly don't think it's a mismatch. Obviously, Vegas feels that these two teams are about even with the 2.5 points for home field advantage. So I just think that Buffalo plays a safer style of football, and I trust them more in Buffalo
Raiders
than
play
they do.
pretty safe.
Last year they did. This year it's been a little bit different story.
A few more picks, yeah, but again, Raiders don't win by forcing interceptions this year. They have 0 picks. They're the only team without an interception this year.
Sure.
So that doesn't bother me that.
But that
Tyrod Taylor doesn't.
Well, like that's the thing. But doesn't that kind of work in the Bills here?
It does.
Because the
Bills
Bills don't
have
throw
shown
the
they
ball.
can beat elite football
The Bills have the
teams.
worst passing offense in the NFL this year by yards, I believe, if I'm not mistaken.
To piggyback on that home road thing, how bad the Raiders have been on the road. I don't know what this says about them, but Raiders second in the NFL in third down conversion percentage at home, 53%. Worst in the NFL, 20% on the road.
It's pretty much the
I don't know
same,
if it's a communication thing or
Good
what.
stat.
Or just
We just said
random ass,
I think we just said the same
coincidental.
exact thing through 2 different stats.
Yeah.
Because it's like,
So
because they're not
basically-
getting the yard per play, so they're getting in third down more often than not getting the third down. Yeah. Also, they 95, 126, 116, 143, 143, 80, and 94. That's the rushing totals the Raiders have allowed this year.
Although I am taking the Bills, I think this team has the potential to be better without Marshawn Lynch on the field.
No, 100%. Yeah.
I
He was
think-
a non-factor
I
before
just
he got
think that
ejected.
I think he slows down that
Yeah.
offense.
I really like Jalen Richard.
Yeah, it
And
hasn't.
DeAndre
just-
Washington and more
yeah.
finesse, pass catching backs.
It fits,
that-
I think.
Yeah, it just fits what they do a
Yeah.
lot more. So
In an
that's
ideal
one thing
world-
working in their favor.
In an ideal world, I think
No
Lynch would have
Marshawn
been.
Lynch revenge game against the Bills. I wouldn't.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
It's a good storyline.
It was a good idea, I guess, just hasn't worked out. It is what it is. So, let's go to our second game of the week.
Let's go to the Pacific Northwest.
Yes, we're going to Puget Sound, where
We're all over the
uh,
time zones today.
They're pumping the crowd noise coming off the sound.
Yeah.
That's a
Love
callback to the old
Love it.
NFL Picks podcast on Nesson.com. But we got the Houston Texans coming off a bye. They go to Seattle to take on a Seahawks team that went on the road last week and took care of business against the Giants team. Maybe a little bit more difficult early on than most would have expected, but at the end of the day, that looked a lot better than it probably was. The Seahawks, as it stands right now, I think they open at 6-point favorites. They are down to 5.5-point favorites, according to OddsShark. Again, this game's in Seattle. Houston coming off a bye. A lot of moving parts here. Andre, why don't you kick it off?
I don't know what to make of the Seahawks yet.
I didn't know.
It's just okay. They had a very nice win against the Rams, which that's their signature win. But their other wins have come over Indianapolis, San Francisco, and the Giants. You could say 3 of those teams are maybe the 5 in the bottom of the league, top 5 worst teams in the league. So it's hard to gauge who they are. And on the other side of the ball, this is going to be Deshaun Watson's toughest test.
Definitely.
He's been fantastic. I like him. I like what I've seen. 15 touchdowns, 5 picks. But going up against that Seahawks defense will be his toughest test. But he's a guy who's performed well against the likes of the Jaguars defense and the Chiefs and the Patriots. He's done a decent job. He's seen tough competition before. He's played against tough defenses, not the Patriots, but the Jaguars and the Chiefs. But I think Texans, they just have more weapons. I don't know. I don't really look at any stat that jumps at him, but I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. We've seen Russell Wilson struggle against decent teams moving the ball. And I don't know who will win, but the 5.5-point, 6-point spread is big enough for me to be confidently say Texans will cover.
All right. I'm taking the Seahawks. Going up against a rookie quarterback at home. This is another game where I'm putting a lot of stock into that home field advantage.
Not a regular rookie.
Seahawks 10-1 straight up in the last 11 home games. Texans on the flip side 3-8 straight up in the last 11 road games. And last rookie to win in Seattle, opposing rookie Andy Dalton, 2011. This is a tough place to play for anybody, let alone a rookie quarterback. So I don't know. I still have some concerns about that Seattle offense, although they did look a little bit better. They look like they got a couple of against the Giants. Yeah, but I don't know. Like I said, I just going up against the rookie quarterback, I like it to slow him down. It's a tough matchup.
Yeah,
it's just it's 2 of those losses that Deshaun Watson had. Chiefs and Patriots. They were close games and against tough teams. He can.
Yeah, but the Patriots defense.
He can handle the spotlight.
It was garbage, and I also think that
but
as good as Watson has been, he takes some chances, and there's still situations in which I think he maybe has gotten away with a few things, and you're not going to be able to get away with anything. He's going to have such tight windows to throw into against Seattle, and when you talk about Earl Thomas, the best center fielder or whatever in the NFL, I can see him coming up with a pick, maybe a defensive touchdown, some sort of a couple of turnovers here that sways things in Seattle's favor.
Yeah, you sit here and talk about like the Houston defense they don't have J.J. Watt, they don't have Whitney Merciless. It's still a decent defense, but they've been susceptible to giving up points this year. I mean, again, it's against offenses that are better than Seattle's, but I'm just saying this is another one of those ones where if you looked at it at the start of the year, I think it would be even a little bit more intriguing in terms of it would be a much more low-scoring game. I think Seattle's going to find a way I think they get a couple turnovers. I think that puts them in some short fields. They figure out a way to score just enough points, and it really comes down to whether or not Houston can do enough on that against that defense, kind of like you talked about.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a good veteran defense going up against a rookie quarterback playing at home in front of one of the better home field advantages in the entire game. Random Russell Wilson stat for you guys. His last, 5 AFC home games, he has thrown for 286 yards a game, 13 touchdowns, 13 interceptions, 2 rushing touchdowns.
I don't like that stat. I'm sorry.
Pittsburgh, Cleveland, Miami, Buffalo,
He looks at
Indianapolis.
AFC team.
I don't know.
He's never lost at home to an AFC team.
Yeah,
11-0.
So
I'm not saying they're going to lose. I'm just saying it'll be below a touchdown score, 6-point spread. It's going to be a low-scoring game.
yeah,
low-scoring game.
It's a
And you
decent amount
said
of
it
points.
yourself. The Texans gave up points. Their 2 highest scoring games that they gave up was against the Patriots and Chiefs, 2 great elite offenses, maybe the 2 best in the league. So that doesn't concern me. They've been able to shut out quarterbacks like Dalton and Mariota, and that's where Wilson is in that range.
I'm just anxious to
He's a
see how
little bit better,
Watson
but-
responds to this because, I mean, you mentioned like the Patriots game, for example, and the Chiefs defense has had their troubles at times this year. So he's done, he's putting up these numbers against, second level, lower tier defenses.
Yes,
I mean,
this
you
will
look
be
at-
the toughest defense he faces.
Yeah.
I mean, I look back to that game they won against the Bengals, and I think it was week 2, and 13-9, and it was known for that long run he had. I think it was a Thursday night game.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that great.
But
in
that's
that
the
game.
type of game I'm
So-
seeing. I'm seeing a 14-10 game.
See, I just
Field goal
trust
contest.
Seattle to make more plays at the
Yeah,
end of the day than some
That's
of
the thing. It's
Cincinnati.
like, and so if you trust that, so like 14-10 can quickly become 17-10. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it kind of goes both ways. I get what you're saying, though.
It's a tough one.
It
It's
is.
been a tough week to pick all these games, especially this next one.
These are tough.
I will say I like a lot of chalk this week. I like a lot
Yeah.
of favorites. I tried to go through and fight. It's going to get tough when we get to the upset portion of this.
Yeah.
This is just picking and choosing was difficult, but I like a lot of favorites.
To that end, sort of, our third and final game of our 3 to watch or whatever is, of course, couldn't
3
be
to
a-
stomach.
Yeah, right.
Stomach it. Stomach it.
Had to get an NFC East game in there, obviously. The Dallas Cowboys, impressive 40-10 victory last week in San Francisco. I didn't see that one coming at all. They just, San Francisco.
I was all in on that upset.
Yeah, me too.
I
Yeah.
think everyone was in, which
Yeah.
meant it wasn't going to happen.
The Cowboys head to Washington, take on the Redskins at FedEx Field. Redskins, short week for them, tough divisional loss Monday night to perhaps the MVP frontrunner, Carson Wentz and the Eagles. Cowboys 2.5-point road favorites here. Did I say that right? 2.5-point road favorites, yes. Ricky, why'd you kick it off?
I'm going to take the Cowboys in this one. And see, I still have, for whatever reason, the Redskins offense just hasn't really impressed me. It's like Kirk Cousins looked off with some of his receivers from time to time, especially Terrell Pryor. I don't know what the hell they're doing with him. They don't know how to use him.
Yeah,
he's just been a complete non-factor this season. And that offensive line, I mean, to begin the week, Jay Gruden said it straight up, I don't have any linemen. So that's a banged-up unit. Going into this week, we'll see how many people suit up, how many replacements they have in there come game time. You mentioned the short week for Washington. I think that maybe plays a factor when you have so many issues like they do. And I think it's time to take notice. Dak Prescott's having a hell of a year. He's playing really well. I mean, obviously, when you talk about the Cowboys, it's that the offensive line, the rushing attack, which was their hallmark last year. But I think he's really taking the next step this year. So I don't know. Maybe I think a lot of their victory last week too stemmed from the fact that they did play the 49ers.
Yeah.
They're beating up on some bad teams. I'll give you that. So this is one of their better tests yet. But I don't know. Maybe they figured something out last week. I like the Cowboys.
They've
2.5
beaten on
points.
some bad teams. They've lost to some very close to some really good teams like the Rams and the Packers. I'm going to take the Cowboys as well. I think they got the advantage in the trenches. Talk about the Cowboys' offensive line helping the rushing attack last year. This year's really been helping the pass attack. Prescott's only been sacked 7 times this season. They've really been protecting him well. And on the other side of the trenches, the Cowboys, they have the most sacks in the NFL from teams who've had a bye week. So, you can't, if you haven't had a bye week, you have another opportunity to get sacked. So I'm going to give the advantage there. In the last 4 games, Cowboys at least 28 points in all those games. In the last 3 games, 6.5 yards per play. And Zeke is going to play, which I think is the biggest difference maker in this one. If he wasn't playing, I would probably side for Washington. But, he's just been unbelievable in the last 4 games. 584 total yards and 6 total touchdowns. They'll control the time of possession and win.
I'll take the points. I'm going to take the Redskins. The big reason is the schedule thing is I just can't ignore that. The fact that I can't pull my notes. Giants, Cardinals, 49ers, 3 teams that don't really impress me. Sure, they played the Rams and the Packers close. Those games were at home as well. I think that's worth mentioning. Yeah. Whereas Washington, what a brutal schedule so far. They played the Eagles twice already. They played the Rams. They played the Raiders, and they played the Chiefs. I mean, those, and we could be looking here in January. Those could all be playoff teams. It's been tough. And even without Pryor, even with the offensive line issues, Kirk Cousins, 119.7 passer rating over his last 4 weeks. And he still threw for, let me just pull it up real quick here. I was just looking at it. I mean, he was sacked 4 times last week. They have the offensive line issues going up against a very good pass rush in the Eagles. He completed 30 of 40 passes for 300 yards, 3 touchdowns, and a pick. And not bad. Not bad. So I think he keeps it close enough. It's just divisional game. The Cowboys traveling 2 weeks in a row, a lot kind of working against them from that point. I just think maybe the Cowboys find a way to win this, but I'll take the points and just kind of hope that works out for me. I just think I was down on the Redskins to start this season. Wasn't really impressed with them early on, but I think they've kind of, even though the record isn't very impressive, it's been a tough slog for them, and they've just kind of to find ways to stay in games.
Yeah, they've jumped into that.
One of the best teams in the NFC.
They're within that pile of mediocrity.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like
they're better than that.
They're the team, but
I think they'll lose this week.
Yeah, I think basically the entire NFC is mediocre at this point.
The Redskins are the Chargers.
They're in the NFC. There's like that level of mediocrity, potentially going to make the playoff. I mean, this is a big game in terms of possibly wild card implications because I think the Eagles are going to win that division.
Look at the Redskins' next 3 games after. They got the Seahawks, Vikings, Saints. Doesn't get any easier for them.
I think in the past, too, we've said how different that Dallas defense is with Sean Lee. Last week, the first time they had him and Anthony Hitchens in the starting lineup together. So 14-2 in the last 16 when those two play together. So
I love Anthony Hitchens. All right, let's do some locks and upsets.
What's up, Ronald?
Do we have to?
I just want to say hi to Ronald Stewart. That's all. Just don't worry about it. Just say hi to him. Locks and upsets. Who wants to start?
I'll start.
Why don't you go?
My lock of the week is the Falcons 4-point favorites over the New York Jets. The New York Jets are only 4-point underdogs. What? What is that? Against the NFC champions? Look, everyone's all done on the Falcons. I'm back on the Falcons bandwagon. Let me tell you, they still lead the league in yards per play differential. And the Jets.
See, this is the thing. You got on me the other day for using yards per play.
I always use yards per play.
No, I know, and I understand it, and it's a good stat. But sometimes you just have to be like,
okay,
I don't know about that.
All right, hold on.
Always is, and if you check out the NFL picks column that we release every Thursday, you last week or the week before you were very heavy on yards per play differential.
Can I speak?
No, I just want to say that at a certain point, it's
like
they have not looked good.
Okay,
go ahead.
Number 1 in yards per play differential. And they're playing the Jets, whose 3 wins have come against bad quarterbacks like Jay Cutler, Blake Bortles, and Deshaun Kaiser. Matt Ryan is not those guys. He's struggling this year, but he's not those guys. Julio Jones finally had a good week against the Patriots. They're going to win this game, and it'll be a statement victory and have everybody back on the Falcons bandwagon.
You're going to throw a parade?
Everybody's I am with you. I almost use that as my lock in the hurry up this week. I think it's
spoiler, I got it as my upset.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Why don't you give us a lock then?
I'll give you my lock. I like the Saints, 9-point favorites over the Bears. The Bears, as you mentioned earlier at the top, 17-3 win, but didn't score an offensive touchdown.
Trubisky threw 7 passes?
7 passes. 7 passes for 107 yards. It was very reminiscent almost of that Blake Bortles game a couple weeks ago when they just basically eliminated the pass as much as they could.
Well, they didn't need it.
You're not going to be able to do that, though, against the Saints. You're going to have to throw the ball to keep up at some point. You're also not going to have the turnovers. The Saints have only turned the ball over 5 times this year. Do a good job taking care of the football. I mean, you want to talk about teams that are, difficult to pin down and are frustrating. The Panthers, good God, week to week, you don't know what you're getting from that team, and Cam Newton in particular. But I like the Saints right now. I'm buying into them a little bit. I think their defense is much better over the past few weeks after being god-awful the first 2 weeks. So I like the Saints to take care of business at home as well. So
Saints have gotten pretty lucky with some matchups here, too.
They have. But
taking care of business, though.
No, they are. And I'm just saying, to go.
They don't have the Redskins schedule.
To go from Brett Hundley to Mitch Trubisky is a nice little stretch.
Bears, they're that team that's just gonna like back their way into like 5 or 6 wins. You know what I mean? Like, and you look at, and at the end of the day, like how the hell did they? Get
I
those
think
wins?
they're still like 25-1 to win the North, so that might be something we should look into.
Yeah, they just weird. They're a weird
It
team.
wouldn't be the craziest thing in the world. For my lock, I'm going to take, this is insane, I'm going to take the Cincinnati Bengals to cover a 10.5 point spread, which is, they've barely scored 10.5 points this season.
This is your lock.
But this is my lock. I might have to just start picking against the Colts every week because the Colts stink. This game is in Cincinnati. Cincinnati 2-1 won against the spread since 2014 as home favorites of at least 10 points. That Indy offensive line, terrible. 11.3 sack percentage allowed. That's the worst in the NFL. Cincinnati has the second best home sack percentage, 6th best overall. They're allowing the second fewest yards per play at home. They're a better defense at home. They've been a better defense since they got Vontaze Burfict back. Also, this could be a get-right game for A.J. Green's had a kind of a quiet season. The last few weeks, Allen Hurns, 5 catches, 101 yards. Eric Decker, 7 catches, 88 yards. Marquise Goodwin, 5 catches, 116 yards. Nothing gets you back on track like playing the Colts, so I think this is again, this could be like a 17-0 game.
It's absolutely flabbergasting that they have 2 wins.
It's unbelievable.
They're bad. They're bad football.
They're really
I
bad.
like Jacoby Brissett. He's been doing a great job. You guys, the Bengals should never be 10.5 point favorites against any team.
All they need to do is win like 20-6.
No, but I think they're gonna lose this game.
I don't
to be
think so.
honest with you.
No way.
Andy Dalton throws a couple
way.
pick sixes.
No, I think it's a couple big plays for A.J. Green gets the job done. So, and to get the run game going too. Yeah, why don't we start off with upsets?
All right, my upset of the week. You guys are gonna roll your eyes, but I'm gonna take the LA Chargers over the New England Patriots to cover a 7.5 point spread and win the game too. Look, Phillip Rivers isn't gonna have any problem moving the ball against the Patriots, who are obviously dead last in yards allowed per play. Chargers, they can get to the quarterback, 4th in the league in sack percentage, and Rivers in the last 4 weeks, he's really flowing. Like Phillip Rivers, river flows. 8 touchdowns, 1 pick in the last 4 games.
Oh boy!
And in the last 23 games, 18 of 23 games for the Chargers have been decided by 1 score or less. We talk about how they're playing close games every week. 7.5 points, they can cover it.
Yeah.
Well, I already gave my upset. And really,
Do you have any insight to add to this?
a lot of this is because I looked at. Like I said early in the show, I like a lot of chalk this week. I like a lot of the favorites, so there weren't a lot of options to go with. But I will take the Jets over the Falcons, and it's just that. Is there a more rattled team in the NFL right now? They look just completely flustered, whether it's because of the Super Bowl loss or whatever it is.
I was embarrassed for them.
They just like
They were 3-0.
their play calling.
It wasn't a good 3.
Early in that
It was
game
3-0.
was horrendous. The 4th down, the first 4th down they went for it, like right. But I think they weren't even at midfield.
Yep.
They just looked desperate. Desperate, a lot of
But teams
desperation.
do that
there.
against the
It's time to
Patriots.
also recognize that losing Kyle Shanahan hurts that team because Steve Sarkisian doesn't look like he knows what the hell he's doing right now.
he doesn't.
They don't know how to. You mentioned Julio Jones having a good game, but they don't. They haven't. It wasn't even a good game. It was a garbage time touchdown.
Right.
They just
It was a nice catch.
It was
though.
was a great catch. It was a
volume
great
based.
catch. Yeah. They just, I don't know. They haven't been able to get
It was
him
a
the
sick catch.
They got so many weapons and is not utilize them in the proper way. It seems like so. And Matt Ryan, he's. You mentioned he's not Deshaun Kaiser, but
or Blake Bortles or
Blake
Jay Cutler.
Bortles
Those
or
are
Jay-
bad quarterbacks.
But you're talking like the bottom 3 quarterback.
But those are the guys that Jets have
I know. I'm
beat.
saying you're really scraping the bottom of the barrel there, but he hasn't been good. He has not been good. So at home,
I do like your festive shirt though.
That's why I
Orange
wore
and
it
brown.
first
Very
last
Halloween.
show before Halloween.
Oh, sure. Happy Halloween.
It's a jack-o'-lantern.
Oh, we
thing.
should have done.
You should have brought in one of your pumpkins that you carved
Spooky.
on
I
Sunday.
carved the hell out of those pumpkins. It came out good too.
All right, what's your upset?
That's how bad the football was last week, because I was
carving
carving pumpkins
pumpkins.
instead of watching football.
It's the married life, man.
I know. My upset, I'll take the Carolina. Again, not a good week for upsets. Not a whole lot to choose from. I'll take the Panthers. I'll tell you what. I have a reason. 7-2 against the spread in their last 9 games as an underdog. They've won 4 of their last 6 road games. Cam Newton, this is weird. Reverse split. At home, he's completed 60% of his passes. He's thrown 1 touchdown and 6 interceptions. On the road, which he is this week, he's completed 69% of his passes. Nice. 8 touchdowns, 4 picks, 8.7 yards per attempt. That Bucs defense is dreadful. Horrible. It's not good. Jameis Winston actually having a nice year.
Jameis Winston's having a phenomenal
Yeah,
year.
but it doesn't matter because their defense sucks. And Luke Kuechly practiced in pads on Wednesday. It's Still has to be cleared out of the concussion protocol, but I think if he goes, that's the one thing that puts me over the top, makes me feel better about this. So, but again, I had to pick one. I almost asked you guys in our show notes. It's like, is it okay if I use the Redskins as my upset? Because I don't want to have to pick an upset just to pick an upset, which is what I did here. So.
We should have punted on upsets.
Excuse.
We should have.
You did it last week. You didn't give us an upset. The last 2 weeks, you didn't give us an upset.
Yeah, because I was like in the middle of nowhere, enjoying myself.
You could have made it a trend.
Like I get your texts as I'm sitting in a hot tub just drinking. It was awesome.
All right, about the
Now I'm back
Bucks
here
defense.
talking to you idiots.
You're crapping on the
It's
Bucks
the worst.
defense. It's
You wonder
important
why
to
I'm
know
so miserable.
the Bucks were up 38-0 against the Cardinals, and the Cardinals scored 33 unanswered
All right.
points in garbage time.
So?
The week before that, they played the Patriots. So it's like, yeah, they played some. They allowed a bunch of garbage time yards.
I don't know. I don't know if you want to die on
Fine,
that hill. I don't know if
yeah,
you want to sit
that's
there
a good
and defend
point.
the Bucks.
I'm just saying.
That's well because I'm not going to sit here and defend the Panthers. I'm like, yeah, fine, you're okay, good points. I don't care because I'm not.
I'm going with the Bucks.
All right.
I'm
Show and
doing
tell.
show and tell. I'm going to start off with this. And you guys are going to hate me again for this and roll your eyes.
Very festive again.
Because
Now,
look,
this is where we get to the
this
Halloween.
is a crystal ball, guys. Look, crystal ball. Look at this. It's like Halloween. It's a Halloween.
Looks like a paperweight.
It's a crystal ball. And you know, I'm going to look into my crystal ball and predict that if the Cleveland Browns finally start Cody Kessler at quarterback, they will cover the spread this week. But they didn't. You know what they did? They started Kaiser instead. If there's one thing that Cody Kessler does, is he doesn't turn the ball over. 3 of the losses the Browns have had have been by 3 points. Sorry, 4 of the losses the Browns have had have been by 3 points. Is it 3 or 4? 3. 4 of the 7 losses have been by 3 points. What does Cody Kessler not do? He doesn't throw interceptions. He's a think and dunk quarterback.
He doesn't play.
Okay, since the start of 2016, Cody Kessler is the only Browns quarterback that has more touchdowns than interceptions. And he got a lot of playing time last year. He was 0-10. That was his fault completely. But Kaiser throws these picks that they halt drives, are back-breaking, and they lose by 3 points. Oh, maybe if they don't throw those picks, maybe they can win a game. They could be 4-3.
You are the most passionate person in the world when it comes to the Browns.
Yeah.
Over the last 2 years, I've heard
waste
more
of-
Browns. I think you show and tell every week you discuss the Browns. I respect that. When they're good someday, you'll be able to say I was there. I was there from the beginning. All right, mine. Sticking with the Halloween theme. Oh, can you even see this? It's a I got held
Look
the
like
wrong.
snowmen.
Metal, we can build a
So
snowman.
it's a ghost, but no, my father said the same thing. He's convinced, he pulled it out at Christmas time, right? He pulled it out at Christmas time and goes, "You like the snowman towel?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that's a ghost," and then we had a big argument. You know, he drinks a lot, so I figured I'd give him that one. Anyways, ghosts. In theory, they're supposed to be scary, although this is a very jovial ghost. They're a very happy-go-lucky ghost. But in theory, they're supposed to be scary. You know what else is scary? Trevor Siemian throwing 7 picks. And the Broncos getting shut out for the first time since 1992. First time in 394 games. And their upcoming schedule. They got the Chiefs on the road, Eagles on the road, and then the Patriots. This is a tough stretch for the Broncos. And I think for a nice kick in the pants, they need to finally go to Paxton Lynch, see what they got at the quarterback position.
So both of us are advocating horrible backups.
I think you need to do a quarterback change. Listen, it's not ideal, but Trevor Siemian has looked like garbage. He started off the season pretty good.
You see 7 picks isn't scary, but 17 picks from Deshaun Kaiser doesn't.
Oh, it's
whatever, how many
sucks.
picks he had?
I'm not defending
700
Deshaun
picks?
Kaiser by any stretch of the imagination. So yeah, the Broncos, they're in a tough spot right now. They shut out that gauntlet coming up. Woo.
Speaking of less than ideal quarterback play, and teams that are facing a tough stretch, I'm going to turn on the. Does this thing do anything else?
Just turn.
There you go.
Whatever. This is like this is bad. This is the bad light or whatever. I don't know. It's for the Packers. Aaron Rodgers. I wasn't here, so I'm getting caught up on storyline. So let me tell you a story. October 14th, it was a Saturday. I get married. Probably the best day of my life, obviously, right? You know, great stuff. Feeling good, feeling great. Get all the family stuff done. Nobody got in a fight. Everybody said yes, and I do. Families behaved themselves for the most part. Nobody was overserved, at least not that I know of.
You didn't have one guy that went rogue?
No, I mean, there was people, we were drunk, but it wasn't like bad.
There's always like one guy.
So everything's going well. Wake up Sunday morning, get out of town relatively unharmed, unscathed, get home. I'm home, time to watch the 1 o'clock games. Life is good. 12 hours 18 hours in the marriage, Aaron Rodgers collarbone, and I'm just all of a sudden a miserable person again. So it was tough. Tough wedding gift from the Packers. They're in trouble, though. I mean, Brett Hundley looked clueless, and Mike McCarthy. I tweeted this out, and we got to wrap up, but I don't know if Aaron Rodgers is the best quarterback. I don't know if he's the most valuable player in the NFL, but nobody does more to overcome other deficiencies in their team, their roster, coaching staff, play calling, all of that than Aaron Rodgers. I think Dom Capers and Mike McCarthy every morning should wake up and thank their lucky stars that they've been in an organization that's had Aaron Rodgers overcoming those issues for them. Now we saw last week going up against, it's a Saints defense that's supposed to be not that good. They couldn't do anything once the run game ran dry. It's just, now they're going into the bye week. I kind of believe in Brett Hundley, and it sounds like Aaron Rodgers could be back for December 17th against the Panthers. But they got the Bears coming up, which is a tough game on the road. They got the Steelers. They got the Ravens. That defense is still good. I don't know. It's looking like a lost season for the Packers.
Tony Romo came out and said yesterday he doesn't want to come back.
Yeah, I don't blame him. I wouldn't come back to play for the Packers, that's for sure. I want to hang out with Mike McCarthy. I know. Yeah. So this is like
it's a Halloween centric.
I know. I didn't know we were doing Halloween, and I thought of that 2 minutes before we started. So it's time to sound the alarm for the Packers.
Double down on Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, right. And Christmas. I'll be ready for Christmas. Maybe I'll grab your ghost towel.
Very versatile towel.
Snowman.
Covers all the holidays.
That's the spread. NFL, Nesson's Football Picks podcast. We'll be back again next week. It'll be fun. So, see you later. Don't throw that.